Hi everyone, we're doing this again because, when I use the auto cue, I can see myself reading it anyway, so if I'm not doing a scripted skit and I'm actually talking to you, what's the difference? Less technical garbage. Okay. So there's this article that's been going around about harassment in the RPG industry. An archived copy is linked in the description, as are the voice recordings that were originally connected to the piece. It's a horrifying read, and it's directly relevant to Lamentations of the Flame Princess. And you're going to need to read it, because this whole thing, is about that. So if you haven't read that, this isn't going to make much sense to you. So, I've avoided talking publicly about the piece to this point because, well, at first, I cried when I read it. Someone saw what had been done to me, to us, and cataloged it, got the confessions, and they told the world. Then the emotions passed and the thinking kicked in. The thing confirmed my every suspicion. The article complemented my every bias, and it supports every narrative that I wish to be true. And whenever that happens, that's when you or I should be the most skeptical, the most critical. So, I've been trying to verify certain things. I've been trying to get in touch with the author, so on and so forth. But several things have become clear. Dr. Cleo Weissman is a real person. Yes, this is the level of trust that we're at in the RPG scene. Is the author of this article even a real person? So yeah, people have checked up on that. People that agree with the article, disagree with the article. It's confirmed. It's sad that that's the level that it's at, but that's actually, if you're not sure, really is the first thing you need to check. And then the audio clips that have been released are authentic. They're not made up, apparently not even taken out of context. More on that, a lot more on that in a bit. And then the article ends up so Zach Smith-centric as to actually raise questions of how involved he was and whether that article as written was actually the entire plan to begin with. And that last part is a shame, because an article about harassment and abuse in the RPG space that didn't entirely center on him or primarily center on him could have done a lot more good. James Desborough, who's never referred to by name, was not talked to by the author, even though he was a critical component in an episode that turned the whole Zach situation nasty, even though he suffered constant harassment and abuse for over a decade, to the point that he attempted suicide some years back. And even though me and my company are mentioned, and I've worked with a number of people in the article and used to hang out both digitally and in real life at conventions with even more of them, even though I've been a target for these people for years now, and it had ruined me mentally and physically, and even at one point, I was so absolutely numb due to the deluge just coming in at me of anger during one particular point in time, that I shit myself without even noticing it until later. 2019 was a hell of a year. I wasn't talked to for this article or the paper that's supposedly being written. A number of other people who are mentioned in passing should have been talked to. Adam Coble, who was treated like garbage because he did what people considered a tasteless thing inside of a game. A fucking game. Fictional. And he was ostracized to the point that Luke Crane lost his job at Kickstarter for not taking part in ostracizing Coble. These people were treated like shit for no goddamn reason. I don't know if they were approached, but they should have been if the article is about what the article says it's about. And how many more stories am I not thinking of that I don't know about? That this phenomenon is larger than one person or one company or even one handful of cases. This is pervasive in the RPG space and in a lot of other spaces. You know, and the article's positioning of Zach Smith as this glowing example of humanity that shits gold and farts rainbows is a bit much. If the author had ended up unsympathetic to Zach, we could have easily had an article called "The Importance of Tone in Social Interactions," and instead of dismissing all these people's grievances as being based on tone, played up how having a nasty tone will compel people around you to take you out. I mean, Zach may be the ultimate somebody is wrong on the internet guy. He can be quite aggressive about it, and he's vindictive, and he can be this way towards the misinformation equivalent of jaywalking. You know, treating those people the same as truth murderers. You know, I've seen him witness personally, him turn a casual bullshitting session into an interrogation. You know, he's flat out stated before that he wanted to be the gatekeeper of the OSR. The dragon guarding the valley is how I recall him putting it back in Google+. But, being a prickly fuck online certainly isn't like a moral wrong. It's not indicative of any of the actual wrongdoing he's been accused of. And it's not saying that he can't be kind or generous because he is also those things. And that's even pointed out in the article, you know, fair enough, that the complete picture does include the very good things. But, you know, the article promotes the narrative that nobody who dislikes the man has any real basis for it, and that's just not true. I just wish people would be honest about why. He rubs me the wrong way like sandpaper on my scrotum. You just say that, and it's like, okay. Personality conflict, differing goals, differing priorities. Understood. And then it's done. You know, and sometimes I do wonder, and I've said this to him, how many of our lives would have been different if, you know, back over 10 years ago, when Maxim had an article about I hit it with my axe, when somebody commented, "This is bad for women," if Zach had just blocked them and forgot about them, instead of challenging them, cataloging them, and treating them as the enemy. But hey, this is gaming. So many of us want to pretend that we're either avatars of society at large, or that we're avatars of how society at large should be. I do that sometimes too, you know. When really, we're all just a bunch of fucking freaks who spend a lot of time and money to play organized pretend instead of living our real lives like normal people do. You know, all of our shit stinks to one degree or another. I mean, seriously, every single person talked to or referenced in this article, I do believe they've all been deeply involved in RPG online communities for over a decade. And we're all professionally entangled in the industry. There ain't a one of us that's stable or normal. The real tragedy of this thing, no matter its focus, no matter who it's focused on, is that no matter who is right or who is wrong, whether the article is simply 100% truth told, or if it's all a pile of steaming bullshit, it is a very, very loud message and alarm that anyone with a sense of dignity, self-respect, or sense of self-preservation should run away from everyone involved, including me, as fast as they possibly can right now. You know, I'm the guy that runs in the snow naked on YouTube, not in this video. You know, so that explains why I'm still here. I mean, dignity, self-respect, self-preservation. What? But what about everyone else? I mean, I can't imagine some normal person thinking, oh, this role-playing thing sounds fun. Maybe they try it out, and they like it. And then meets anyone who lives in RPG spaces. I mean, and people were trying to tell me recently that I need to engage with the community more. Oh. Fuck, right? Yeah. But of course, we all think we're the good guys, and that it's those other people that are the problem. And that's what I'm going to do here, you know? I'm going to give my case for why the problem is the other people. See, the key to this whole thing, and why I'm talking about it now, is that the audio quotes and audio clips have been confirmed. I was skeptical as fuck that anyone would admit to any of what was said. I mean, it's just too terrible. It's too stupid to reveal. I thought this had to be an elaborate hoax with voice actors or AI recreations or something, because there is no way that anyone would be stupid enough to admit to any of this. And even if they were real, confirming that would have been impossible, because how stupid would it be for any of the people that were quoted to confirm it now? Well, what do you know? The people quoted have been taking to Twitter, X, whatever, to complain about being lied to about what the purpose of the interviews were, the disposition of the interviewer, all sorts of things that they say were bad. But they aren't saying that the quotes are fabricated. They aren't saying that the quotes were taken out of context. I haven't seen one instance of that. These people got caught being honest for once in their lives, and they hate it. More people staring at me on the paths. That's great. I've never seen a camera before, Jesus. Anyway, these people got caught being honest for once in their lives, and they hate it. See, Tenkar had a good quote about this. They're proud of what they said and did, they just didn't want it in the open, just in their circles. Or, you know, reminds me of that scene in Big Short. I'd be in the Steve Carell role. Why are these people confessing? Only to be told they're not confessing, they're bragging. As far as the methods to get the quotes, I mean, I share Grimm's attitude. I care that they got caught, not how. I mean, holy fuck. Olivia Hill, probably the least credible person in the history of the fucking world, and I'm not exaggerating that one little bit. You know, after a decade of saying that Zach threatened her kids, admitted that it didn't happen, how is that not just completely game over? And why are people like this? I mean, this whole mindset. I mean, are any of these people happier in their lives for having behaved this way? Did they move forward towards creating their perfect gaming community by marginalizing the people they thought were bad? Of course not. They say so, it's quoted in the article, because I think their interest in the gaming industry, in the gaming hobby, isn't the making of or the playing of games. It's social power. And when that's the game you're playing, you're always one more purge away from that utopia that you crave. So if the last purge didn't work to make you happy and satisfied, well, you need to figure out who else needs to go, because that'll fix it this time, for sure. So, I'll risk losing you all to get at what I think the issue is here. The personal is political. People who believe this, who live this, to me, have surrendered their personhood to pursue power. That's what politics is, the gathering of an exercise of power. Do you really have any respect for anyone whose entire focus as a person is all about the gaining and usage of power, that sounds absolutely miserable. It is demonstrably miserable. And if you're really into this idea, then political differences become personal differences. The blurring of what exactly is a personal offense or a political difference becomes blurry as fuck. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your actual politics are effectively identical. If you have a personality conflict with someone, say they rub you the wrong way like sandpaper on your scrotum, or a cheese grater on your clitty if we're wanting to be inclusive here, or if you have an absolutely minor difference of personal taste, such as, I don't know, sexualized content in creative work, it can't just simply be a personality conflict. It can't just be a matter of personal taste. No, the personal difference expresses as political difference, and power must be redistributed so that the dissenter's views and voice are marginalized. Because if you don't, then what of your power and influence? That is the stupid game being played. So we get situations like my dropping Zach from the LOTFP roster under pressure. And then for months, one of the people quoted in the article was engaging in private conversations with me where it was stressed that all I had to do was denounce Zach. Dropping him wasn't enough. I had to publicly shit-talk him too. And the community would have been behind me once again. It was made clear to me that this person was a representative of a larger group. This was not just a personal plea. I may not have the spine that I wish I did, but I'm proud at least that I didn't bend to that. And, in that way, the past 5 years of chaos and hardship have been well worth it to retain my own self, no matter the cost. This is why the personal is political sorts of people will call even their gaming enemies fascists or Nazis. Because hey, if you're against the party line, then you need to be labeled appropriately to make sure you lose all possible power. So that's why Zach is called a Nazi. That's why people call me a fascist or a Nazi, and I even have the stigma of making it public that I like a conservative media personality. Oh noes. This is why in 2018, before everything blew up big, a furry agitator, I'm serious, a furry agitator who is a furry, could say that the new version of Vampire catered to Nazis. And people that I knew, left-wingers, all of them, got physically threatened because of that. And I had to spend $1,000 at Gen Con that year for security for my booth, because Zach was called a far-right gamer-gator. All of which was completely and obviously and evidently false. And of course, if you're an ally, then all your sins can be forgiven. Note in the article how much people recognize they and theirs behaving like fucking animals. But hey, solidarity is a virtue, right? So join right in, or you become the next meal. And make no mistake, the conduct revealed in the article is what solidarity looks like. A cycle of attack and internal purge. And while just about everyone involved or named or mentioned in the article would identify as a leftist, maybe I've missed someone, but I think so. The author, Zach, the people quoted, Desborough, pretty much everyone except me, come to think of it. If I know all the people correctly, feel free to fact check me on this. I should mention this is not simply a leftist problem. Right-wingers will often claim that Hitler and the Nazis were actually left-wing. National Socialist, right? Am I right? Yeah? So he's not one of theirs. He's not their problem. They don't have to defend their ideology from going that way. They can just ignore it. It's the other side, Same as left-wingers who claim that Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot, they weren't real communists. You know, the outcomes of their regimes proved they were really right-wing, because if a true leftist was in charge, everything would have been puppies and rainbows by definition. You know, so this allows people, you know, it gives these people license to be as shitty as they like, because they think their side is good and correct with no dark side and no possibility of being taken too far. March on without worry to victory. What could go wrong? You know, and as scary as that is, I mean, there are people who embrace Hitler or Stalin or any of those maniacs. And those people are scarier. You know, not the people we're talking about in the article, I don't think, but those people exist and they are scarier, but you have to give it to them for at least their thoughts and presentation are at least consistent. Chalk one up in their column. But in this personal is political mindset, you know, personal spaces, hobby spaces, artistic spaces, they become political battlegrounds by definition. The correct people have to be in power, and those not on board need to be stripped of all of it. Even the truth becomes a weapon. Under this way of thinking, words and work and ideas aren't to be judged on their own merit. No, you judge them by who benefits from them. So if the truth benefits someone bad, then the truth is bad, and you're bad for telling it because of who will benefit from that truth. That's why these people are upset at the release of their words, not because they think they've said anything wrong, not because they're going to face any consequences from their peers or the industry or anything. They're upset because their honesty is going to benefit people that they think are bad. This is why this sort of person will lie about their enemies. They'll behave in bad faith and interpret anything their enemies say or do in the worst possible light. This is why if you trigger one of their no-no rules, suddenly you can be called any pejorative in the book. They can misrepresent anything about you, you know, like a furry agitator might do, because doing so hurts and lessens the power of a bad person. So long as the result is correct and the balance of power moves in the correct direction, what's the problem? It's a different way to use language, not to express ideas or to describe the world, but to persuade or to manipulate, be more accurate. Because what is personal expression to a person who thinks their expression is always necessarily a political act? You know, and looking at all the quotes in the article, looking at their reactions to their words being released, how they operate, how they ostracize, I do think this is an accurate description of why they do all these things. But this is also my problem with the article itself. Why at the beginning of this video, I felt the need to undermine its narrative a bit. Because the author so obviously believes in this mode of discourse. Zach certainly does. So, I mean, the article does not exist primarily to inform or explain. It, too, is nakedly an exercise in redistributing power. And by doing that, it undermines the trustworthiness of the facts presented. I mean, you couldn't find one person with an identifiable and maybe even sympathetic reason to not like Zach. I mean, really? I want the guy to be left alone. I'm pretty much on his side. And I could give you a list, okay? You know, so the whole thing, it requires skepticism. It requires poking at its assumptions and assertions. Even if, especially if, you're going to benefit from the attempted redistribution of power. And that is the ultimate lesson that the essay has to teach, isn't it? When that bell rings, you do not come running. You turn your gaze directly on the person ringing the bell. You examine what they're up to. I mean, thank goodness the audio files were offered and confirmed, or this thing would have little credibility. But even so, there is someone that I already knew that was incredibly hostile to me, on tape threatening someone I worked with, or talking about how they threatened someone they worked with, and I'm pretty sure I know who that is, but I'm not 100% sure, to get on board with them against me to bankrupt me. I'm directly involved here. And all I can think about is, what did this person say that wasn't published? I can only assume that much was said in all of the interviews that didn't fit the article's narrative. Maybe that even undermines the article's narrative. You know, that was all left on the cutting room floor. Because that is what you do when you engage in this style of discourse. You know, but if there is one thing that this document completely exposes, it's the idea that just by being a leftist, it means you're kind, you're tolerant, that you're a good person. No. Being a good person has nothing to do with your beliefs. Your quality as a person is revealed by how you treat other people. Hell, dare I say, how you treat your enemies. And these people treat everybody like shit. And I don't know about you, but a creative community or industry where you have to say and think and do only the approved things in order to be a member in good standing, well, good standing becomes a good indicator of mental death. Fuck the cliques, fuck conformity, fuck gatekeepers, long live the troublemakers, the malcontents, the blasphemers, and the heretics. You know, the individuals. So, that was my sermon for the evening. So to bring this back, what do I want to happen here? Well, hate to say it, don't know a better way to say it. Nothing should happen to these people. Nothing. I do not support any organized boycott against these people. If you enjoy the games these people make, you should feel free to continue to enjoy them and buy them without any guilt. Yeah, maybe they're assholes, but they're also game publishers and writers. Making games is what they're supposed to be doing. Punishing the things they shouldn't have done by screwing with the things they should be doing is entirely counterproductive. It punishes everyone, not just the wrongdoer. It reinforces the whole idea of a creative space as a power struggle. It reinforces the stupid idea that purchasing a book is a transfer of power. I hope people are forgiving of my faults when they make their purchasing and playing decisions. So if I want that from people for myself, I have to advocate that for other people too. So, you know, does this put me at a disadvantage against people that operate this way? Well, sure it does. And on some great level, I don't care. I'll die on that cross. I have enough reasons about why I am insufficient, enough reasons about why I'm not nearly as good a person, maybe even a bad person. You know, enough reasons why all these things are true. I don't need to add this to those ledgers, you know? I mean, this is all a game for assholes. That's all this whole power play thing is. That's what it is. It's a game for assholes. Winning at this game just makes you the smelliest asshole. I don't want to play. I'll trust the public. Yeah, I know, I'm doomed. I'll trust the public, or at least enough of them, to see through all this garbage so we can keep doing what we do as we do it. I don't want apologies from any of these people. I don't think they're forthcoming, first of all, and I'm not so interested in trying to pressure people to make an apology they don't want to make and don't really mean anyway. And ideally, I don't even necessarily want them to stop being the sort of person that leads me to call them psychos or assholes or anything. I mean, they should be able to feel the feelings they feel and say the things they feel the need to say, even if they're unfair or untrue and or disparaging towards me or people I care about. Because all of those things are irrelevant if if I could get the thing I actually want. And what I want requires absolutely nothing from my enemies. Now, the people at fault and that need to change, it's you. You. All of you. Not necessarily you, the individual watching this video, but you all collectively. The public that is the potential audience for this video. Because the only reason that any of this bullshit gets any attention, the only reason any of this bullshit affects anyone's life, is because you allow it. You want it to. You all love the latest gossip, the latest controversy. You want to know who's being bad today. You want to know the response to it. You want to take a side on it. You want to cheer the people you see as good and boo the people you see as bad. You might say you don't like it. You might complain about the toxic environment online. But there you are showing up for it and letting it influence your buying and playing decisions. You're letting it affect how you interact online and with whom. When these people pull on the levers of social power, you all are the mechanism that makes it work. And so the role-playing industry is basically a bunch of damaged people braying at each other in the Coliseum while the plebs eat their popcorn and hang on every word. What the fuck does any of this have to do with games? That is what we're supposed to be about in the gaming space, yes? Yes? Just imagine. I'm trying to catch the light here. Just imagine if someone shouts their grievances into the wilderness and no one answers. Nothing happens. Nobody gains a sale. Nobody loses a sale. Whatever beef someone has with someone else is left up to them to settle it amongst themselves. And I'm talking even legitimate grievances and beefs. Just have it be amongst the people that have them. No virtual armies gather to support either one of them by swarming their disfavored side with shit. It would remove the incentive for anyone to take their issues public. And then no one has to spend their time worrying what anyone else is saying. No one has to worry about taking any shit for playing the game they want to play. Nobody has to spend a single second worrying about how it's going to affect their livelihoods. Nobody has to spend a single second formulating a response. They can just do what they're supposed to be doing instead of vying for social capital. I mean, Jesus Christ. A bunch of nerds stuck in fantasy worlds worrying about PR and social capital. This world is stupid. I mean, last year, when Leyline Press made their efforts towards blackballing me and trying to keep people from working with me, I did an opportunistic PDF sale. And it was amazingly successful. Allowed me to produce more books that summer than originally planned. Too many, to be honest, yeah, but I used that money productively. But I was, and am, kind of resentful about the whole thing, and not just towards Leyline. Why does it take a big controversy? Why do you feel the need to feel like you're sticking it to some shithead in order to give that support to someone? Whatever. I mean, I know I'm weird, and I know I'm out of touch with normal human feelings. I know that. So this vision of how things should be, it is itself a fantasy. It's utopia. So the public is going to continue to behave as the public does, and those of us making the game shit that the public plays have to continue to spend more time propping ourselves up like we're politicians looking for votes. And less time being artists or craftsmen practicing our trade. Yes, I lost my place. So have fun in trying to talk to someone online when you realize that person is friends with another person that has, say, a different view of abortion than you do. And then you have to wonder, well, if this person's friends with them, do they also want to control women's bodies or kill babies, whichever side of that you're on? And if so, how can you possibly be expected to discuss whether or not THACO was good or bad game design with somebody like that? Yeah. Thanks, everyone. You have built a wonderful world for us all to exist in. Anyway, I am very sorry to everyone that any of this is relevant to anybody. I'm sorry that liking my game, or most any game these days, comes with getting exposed to any of this. I hate people.